John Glenn, and I'm here with John Seago, the Legislative Director of Texas Right to Life. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We just want to give you an opportunity to let us know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm in town to speak to the Tea Party Patriots of Eastland County tonight, this evening at 6:30, and going to give them an update about some things that are going on in the pro-life movement. There's a lot of interest with some undercover videos from Planned Parenthood that just came out, and so pro-lifers have a lot of questions about, you know, what's kind of going on with investigations there, whether the state of Texas is going to do anything about that, and then kind of what it looks like with some pro-life lawsuits that we have currently going on right now. So it's a good time to catch up on a lot of things that are going on in the movement.
Just perusing the news online and stuff, Planned Parenthood is trying to say that it's staged videos and stuff. Any word on that? How they're going to try defending that?
Right. Yeah, they're pretty upset. I mean, it is a scandal. It's what we had starting in July was a series of undercover videos that had executive Planned Parenthood staffers talking about what they do after the elective abortion. And so these videos have come out that show that not only are they making money off of elective abortions, selling elective abortions to Texas women and women across the country, but then after that, they're actually trafficking these baby body parts and trying to sell them for an additional profit. And Planned Parenthood's they're not happy about this at all. They're quite upset that these videos have captured just the ugliness of not only what they do with elective abortions, but their business model. And so they have tried everything they can to keep those videos from coming out. They've gone to courts to try to get them from being released, and that hasn't not been successful. They have gone to legislatures to try to pass laws against this type of undercover videos. I mean, they are trying everything in their book. So the latest smear, like you're saying, is to say, well, these videos are edited. These videos are manipulated. And so you can't trust anything about them. That's the most recent kind of line that they've come up with. However, there's been outside studies and investigations on the footage, and these reports have come out from outside sources saying that all the audio that is on these videos is genuine. Nothing was put in there, nothing was sliced in the audio, and then there's a couple of things that the cameras, you know, didn't get good shots because they were undercover videos. So the guy was wearing like a pin or something. So there's times when it's all black, it's covered up by something, but all these outside studies show, you know, this is genuine footage. These people really said these awful, terrible things about preborn children who are the victims of abortion, and so Planned Parenthood is in quite a bind right now with that.
Well, all I can say on this is, thank goodness you and mine and everybody else as parents were pro-life.
Right, absolutely, absolutely.
Is there any way they're going to, here in Texas, is there any way they're going to try shutting down Planned Parenthood, or?
Right, so immediately after the videos, thankfully we do have some pro-life leaders statewide, so Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, they immediately jumped on this and said, we need to see what's going on here. We need to examine these practices and make sure that laws were being followed, making sure that high medical ethics were being obeyed whenever they were going through this process. And so there was already investigations going on with Planned Parenthood. Unfortunately, the House of Representatives has kind of been dragging their feet on this. So you have the Senate, you have our Lieutenant Governor. In the Senate, you have our Governor, and then you also have our Attorney General. They were all jumping on the opportunity to make progress in the pro-life movement. And over in the House of Representatives, we haven't seen that yet. And so that's kind of one thing, is that Texas Right to Life, we're concerned we're going to miss this opportunity. Because this is a big opportunity for education, but also to pass some life-saving policies. And so we're going to be working very closely in the next few months to make sure that we get down to the truth of the matter, what was actually going on in Texas. Because in those undercover videos, there was one Texas clinic was featured. So it's got, you know, in our own backyard, we have on footage these abortionists and these medical experts in the abortion clinic talking about the horrific nature of abortion itself, but also this business practice that American consciences are shocked by, where they sell the body parts after that elective abortion.
The one thing I've seen all this stuff on the news and on the internet and all, what exactly do they do with these parts? Any knowledge?
Well, from Planned Parenthood's perspective, they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're selling these for a profit, and so sometimes we see we've obtained some documents that they're selling them to some universities to do some research.
Okay.
But sometimes they're just selling them to a third party, and they don't know what happens beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
So their interest is bottom line on this issue, and so they're not necessarily trying to look out to make society a better place or what they can do with these.
Right.
It's clearly about a line item, and some kind of internal documents that we've obtained in research show, that they'll do their business transaction, and then they'll have to hound the third party. We haven't received your check yet. We need it. We can't give you any more parts until you give us your check. So they're very concerned about getting that funding.
And so basically, they're treating this whole operation as like going to the parts store and buying a part for your car or something. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on the videos, you see the extreme callous nature. They talk about this. Now, from our perspective, we're a pro-life organization.
Right.
So our goal is to protect innocent human life from fertilization until natural death.
Right.
And we see there's intrinsic value in that preborn child. That's why we oppose elective abortions. And so we see that this is this is an eye-opening kind of facing this ugly nature of abortion, mm-hmm. and kind of how we dehumanize these babies. And it's a terrible, unfortunate kind of situation, but it is good for our country to see this, because so long, in this conversation, the abortion industry has been very good at their talking points. Mm-hmm. They've been very good about saying it's a blob of tissue, it's not a real baby, it's no big deal, whereas these videos show exactly, and I mean, they're not easy videos to watch.
Right.
They're very, very ugly, very horrific, and you actually see these are real babies.
Mm-hmm.
These are familiar to us. We've had pictures of babies like this up on our refrigerator.
Right.
We see these all the time, so it's ugly to see inside of the abortion industry,
mm-hmm.
and so it's a really unique opportunity for us to talk about the truth, mm-hmm. and talk about this.
I can't remember where I saw it, but I read somewhere where it's a felony and a couple years in prison and a $high fine to touch an eagle egg. But
right.
But they come up with these words, fetus, and it's not a person. And how are these people able to function?
Right.
I mean, I couldn't sleep at night.
No, it's phenomenal. I mean, it is really odd that this is developed in our cultures. Like you're saying, we add more protections. We add more protections to these endangered species than
right.
we do to innocent humans. And it's not just in that aspect. It's also in our laws. Mm-hmm. In our society, American society, we apply more laws to protect those who are the most weak, to those who are the most vulnerable in society. So we think of individuals with disabilities. We want to apply more legal protection for them. We want to make sure that they have more access to public services. The more dependent they are on us, the higher responsibility that we feel. But in the case of abortion, it's the complete opposite. Is that the more vulnerable they are, the younger they are, the less we're going to protect them. And that's what Roe v. Wade said, is that if you're before viability, meaning you can't live on your own, mm-hmm. we're not going to apply any legal protections for you. But after viability, then a state can start applying a little bit of legal protection. That's completely backwards. We think the other way around. In other cases mm-hmm. of American law, we think if you need more help, if you're more dependent upon society, we'll apply more help and assistance for you. And so that's why we're very hopeful that Roe v. Wade is going to be overturned. We think that abortion is going to be seen as an unjust practice in our country and in our state, and that we will begin to start passing legislation that really does protect the most vulnerable and innocent in our society.
Is there anything in the future? I know you hear mother's health, incidents of rape, or mother's ability to not have the child or something like that. Is there anything in the future, father's rights? I mean, it takes two to tango, so to speak, and does the father not have anything to say? Is this part of Planned Parenthood? Is this something they're going to fight against, or is there anything in the future that they might bring up to bring something in, or a father's right to have a say in whether or not this child's going to stay or go.
Right. This is an issue that has come up a lot. Is you have what you have is fathers who have no legal recourse if. Even if they're married and the wife wants to have an abortion, you know, that is his child as well.
Right.
But unfortunately, legally, there's no way that he can get into court. There's no way that he can protect his unborn child because of the way that Roe v. Wade is shaped. And so legally, it doesn't look like there's a path forward until we deal with Roe v. Wade itself. And that's one thing Texas Right to Life is focused on, is we want to pass pro-life laws that help women today. We want to pass pro-life laws that give women more information, that protect them from coercion, like if a boyfriend's trying to force her into an abortion. We want to pass those type of legislation today for women, but we also want to be looking forward, is kind of where is the pro-life movement going, and how are we going to get to that point in history where we overturn Roe v. Wade. And that's one thing that we're very dedicated to. And there are some other pro-life activists in Texas who don't think like that. They kind of think of the here and now, politically and legally. And we're always looking forward, is okay, you know, as the pro-life movement, everything we do is in the shadow of Roe v. Wade. And we've got to have a map. We've got to have a plan to get to the point where we can challenge Roe v. Wade. And that's why this current case is very important to us, is that the Supreme Court is right now, as we speak, they're deciding whether they're going to take up House Bill 2, a Texas law we passed in 2013. And if they do that, that will give us more insight into how the court thinks, and then we can better strategize how we're going to challenge Roe and ultimately stop this unjust act of elective abortion.
Okay. Well, I can't think of anything else. I don't know if you have anything else you might want to put out there real quick. Or...
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of been talking about laws, we kind of been talking about policies. One thing I will mention is we have another side of our organization that does college scholarships. We have an education department. And so we have college scholarships for college students to go on their campus, to lead student groups on their campus, or to help out with student groups that talk, that kind of bring up the pro-life conversation, that lead that on their campus. And that's been an extremely successful program of ours. We have more than 70 students across the state who are on their campuses having pro-life conversations that are bringing the truth of the things we've been talking about to college students. And it's been extremely successful because college students, when they study it themselves, when they look past all the rhetoric and all these lines that we've been talking about, they see the ugliness of abortion and how it is a justice issue to protect these preborn children and these pregnant women. And they, they get active. They get active in campaigns. They get active in helping social services locally. So we're extremely encouraged by the way that the pro-life movement is moving forward. We're getting more and more support from young voters. We're getting more and more support from college students and high school students. So it's encouraging that the movement has a good future.
Well, I just thought of one thing. Are you getting backing or support or a voice from churches, any of those type of groups? Or
that's always been a challenge, is that pastors, this is a hot topic. This is a controversial issue. And so pastors are somewhat concerned, if they start talking about these things in the pulpit, what's going to happen? Are people going to walk out on them? Is the IRS going to come knocking? It's a concern for pastors. And so one thing that we have encouraged by is kind of helping pastors know what they can say, helping pastors know this is an important issue that's facing all of your congregants. Everybody in your pew has to think about this, whether it's just in the newspaper or whether it's in conversations personally. And so we're really proud to see more pastors start to talk about it, more pastors start to bring this up, and hopefully that trend will continue, is that our faith leaders will have the courage to address these they're hot topics, but very relevant for the cultural conversations right now.
You just made me think of another question. Amazing how you don't have enough questions and then all of a sudden they start popping in your head.
Yeah, no problem.
Do you have any city entities, councils, governments that are just basically coming out and saying this is not going to happen in my town? Is there anything in the movement, or is there anything in Texas like that going on? Is there any, say, the suburb of Houston is saying this is not happening in our town, so this is outlawed, this is not happening here, this is our ordinance and you can't do it?
Well, even though we all consider Texas, we consider it the greatest state to live in, and we consider it an extremely conservative state, there are pockets of areas in the state that are actually doing the opposite. So we see in Austin City Council actually went out of their way to give more money to fund their lobbyists for Planned Parenthood. And so we see they're kind of, our opponents are always looking for every opportunity to make progress. And so we've seen that, Austin is always, on the front lines of leading the pro-death initiative instead of the pro-life. But we have seen some cities take up the mantle on pro-life issues. So we see in some other states as well, some cities are passing ordinances. If their legislature can't pass a pro-life bill, they'll try to put it in a city ordinance. And there's some opportunities for that, but again, it's such a controversial topic that even pro-lifers, people who are on our side, are concerned about what the backlash of that is going to be. And I think that's ultimately our concern at Texas Right to Life is we have Republicans, people who say they're pro-life, who are not taking every opportunity to stand up for life. And that's one thing that we have to, as voters, we have to really vet our candidates well. We have to really ask them the tough questions. Everybody who's Republican is going to say they're pro-life. You have to if you want to get elected.
Right.
But then asking them follow-up questions. Well, what does that mean? How do you apply that to vulnerable patients? How do you apply that in these hard cases like rape and incest or fetal abnormalities when a baby has a disability? What do we think about those lives? You got to push in a little bit more. Ask them the hard questions. And that's going to be the only way that we get leaders who are taking up every opportunity to protect life. Once we get those kind of leaders in place and more of those, then I think you'll start to see, bolder stances at the city level, the county level. So,
just thought of another one. With all the videos that came out against Planned Parenthood, the undercover videos and stuff we were talking about earlier, they're now another stance they're saying besides the videos are edited is that they're not taking. We saw the federal government, Congress, just totally dismiss not funding them.
Right.
Well, now they're saying that the taxpayer money, one understands is the taxpayer money we're accepting is not going towards funding abortion, it's going towards education. And is this a truth, or is this
right?
I mean, I for one, as a taxpayer, want to know where my money's going.
Exactly.
And not to put out there my views, because I have to be impartial, so to speak, being in a newspaper, but you can probably guess my views.
Right.
I want to know where my money's going.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one talking point, is they say when the federal government or the state government gives us money, we don't use it on abortion. We send it over here to these better services that everybody agrees need to be done. Health screenings, family planning services, sex education, things that, most people would say we need in our society. Well, our position at Texas Right to Life is it doesn't matter what Planned Parenthood says they're doing with the money. They could come to Austin and say, we're going to start paving roads, and we want you to give us money for that. And Texas Right to Life, we would still oppose that if it was Planned Parenthood, because at the center of their business model, is to sell elective abortions to Texas women. And that's how they make their biggest profits, is by selling abortions. So when we let them do other services in our society, we're giving them free advertising, we're allowing them to set up camp in our communities to build up a reputation as a good health service provider. And then whenever a woman is facing an unexpected pregnancy, they've already developed that relationship. So we're pretty much giving them free advertising. So it doesn't matter what they offer us. It's a bad deal for Texas, and it's a bad deal for pro-life values.
I believe the saying I heard before years ago overseas was the minute you let the camel's nose under the tent, you got the whole camel. Exactly.
So that's why we're working hard, to keep every taxpayer dollar away from the abortion industry. And we're not done. We still have some efforts that we need to do in Austin. There's a lot that needs to be done in D.C., but I, for one, am not going to hold my breath for Congress to get its act in order. And so, there's a lot of things that we can do on a state level in the meantime.
Other points or anything you wanted to make?
Yeah, there's one last thing that I'll just mention for anybody who's watching that is considers themselves pro-life or is interested in the pro-life movement is, we've been talking about Planned Parenthood, we've been talking about protecting preborn children and pregnant women. There's a whole nother side to the pro-life movement that we need to talk about in our community, that we need to bring up, and it's applying these same pro-life principles, valuing every individual life, but applying that to medical ethics, applying that to how we treat individuals in the hospital, how we treat our disabled citizens. And so there's a whole another side of what we do in the Capitol of passing laws and stopping bad laws that attack vulnerable patients.
Okay.
And so I will just mention that is that there's a lot of things that we need to do to give more power about medical decisions to patients rather than hospitals. And in Texas, we have some very unique, very anti-life laws that put a lot of decision-making power in the hands of doctors and ethics committees in our hospitals instead of patients themselves. And so we see that as a pro-life issue, is because it comes down to decisions about artificial nutrition, hydration, just food and water,
right.
Ventilator, dialysis, things that patients need to stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
And we have laws that put the power of those decisions in the hands of a doctor. So even if a patient is asking for these life-sustaining treatments, a doctor has the legal authority to stop those things and say, you want it, but I don't think it's appropriate. Mm-hmm. And so that's an area where that's going in a direction that we don't want our society to go in. That's a direction that does not value individual human lives. So although when we talk about pro-life issues, we think of the preborn children, we think of the pregnant women, we also need to make sure that we're keeping an open mind and looking for opportunities to protect those vulnerable patients in hospital settings as well.
This might be on the extreme side, but you just made me think. Earlier we were talking about the viability. Roe v. Wade mentioned that if you're not viable on your own, well, what's to say if, Lord forbid, some reason I have to get dialysis, then I'm no longer viable.
Right. No, it's an excellent point. It goes the same way. You're dependent at the beginning of life.
Right.
You're dependent on society, dependent upon your family, and towards the end of your life, you're in the same situation. As
right.
if you're hospitalized, you're dependent upon society, and we need to value human life even at those both ends that depend upon us, and not just those, but those who are disabled. Those who we have a responsibility to care for these individuals, to value them just as an able-bodied citizen. And unfortunately, we have creeping in this culture that doesn't value life on the ends or those who are not as fortunate as we are.
Unbelievable. It's been eye-opening, I'll say that much.
Excellent. Well, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for coming. I
Yeah.
appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.
And,